can shape and build whatever, but then if you're not followed by the people that are on the ground, it will never happen.
When we talk about personalization, I often feel like people get afraid where they think they need a massive amount of data.
Based on your answer, then you were getting a gift to be taken in store if you were subscribing with your email and data to the CRM.
Gen Z are asking more for two things. One is to be put at eye level with the brand. So we're not your customers, we're your partners.
Yeah.
But then two, also to think of loyalty more from an experiential perspective.
The game changer was when one day I went and I did the entire shift from 7 a.m. in the morning until the end.
Welcome to this episode of the Retail Spotlight. So today we have with us Alessandra Montrasio from XKey. She's got a very unique background, transitioning from a very successful corporate career in consumer goods industry to a retail scale-up in the quick service restaurant industry as a CMO. I really enjoyed this one. Alessandra has a wealth of experience, and we go deep into the territory of how tricky it can be to scale up digital and marketing initiatives in the physical world, in restaurants and stores. She shares some great tips with us on it and much, much more. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome to the Retail Spotlight. Huge XKey fan here. And from what I've been reading so far, I'm also very intrigued to learn about you. Let's just start with hearing a bit about yourself, a bit about your journey from the FMCG world to jumping into the quick serve restaurant.
Thank you, Mitul. My name is Alessandra Montrasio. I'm Italian, but I live in Paris since 2015. And since nearly 1 year and a half, I am the Chief Marketing Officer of XKey. And it has been a coincidence that brought me there. Because I've spent all my professional career in the fast-moving consumer goods and in food fast-moving consumer goods. At some point in the last year that I was at Nestle, I had started working at a side project that was a food retail chain or a food retail project for focaccia in Paris. And while I was looking for investors, somehow I met someone who met someone, and you know how it is when you are networking, looking for funds. So you take all the appointments, all the coffee possibles. And somehow I met someone who told me that the CEO of XKey was interested in getting to know me, to have me as a CMO. Because he was aiming at doing a complete turnaround of his company. And therefore, the whole thing started. But it was, somehow a coincidence. But when instead of getting an offer for funds, I got an offer for a job, somehow I thought that, there is a pattern in things that happen, and so that maybe it was smarter to join this retail chain to lead this turnaround rather than jumping from a ginormous multinational company to my tiny startup for focaccia. But somehow all that I have done on that year of side projects for focaccia was incredibly useful, because I had accustomed myself to all the themes, all the trends, also somehow a different sensitivity around budget that is totally different when you are in a big multinational company or in, let's say, a scale-up business, or even your own startup. So in a multinational company, you talk about percentage and you stop looking at your EBITDA. Everything that happens underneath is none of your business. And then when you start going to either a startup or a scale up, well, that's where the real money happens. So yes, you start looking at cash flows, and you definitely stop talking about percentage and you start talking about real money. So that was a bit the jump. And of course, it was a big change, because when I was at Nestle, I was working with big budgets and also agencies that were managing those budgets for me. So, it's a wide spectrum, but I think that as a professional, it's very enriching to try both experiences, because I do think that from scale up, and especially in the retail space, you learn a lot on how to be more nimble, faster, and to progress with a lot of test and learn and taking risks.
That's a really interesting observation there, right? Because I think one of the big challenges that a lot of people have when they switch from a corporate context to a startup context is going away from that notion of there's an infinite budget somewhere in the
Yeah,
background to like there's a very limited budget, and how can you very creatively in that small budget come up with cool solutions. And I think in a way that even forces the creativity quite a lot, right? Because you're not
absolutely.
in that sense. What would you say were the differences for you in terms of moving from an FMCG world
Mhm.
into a more brick and mortar, physical, retail, quick serve kind of context, in terms of the content of what you were working on, in terms of the problems you were dealing with?
Honestly, I loved it. When you work in FMCG, you think that you're working in the B2C market. Then, when you move to retail, you realize that no, people working in FMCG are really far from the consumer. And when you work in retail, that's when the real interaction with the consumer happens. And I found very fascinating the possibility of creating an experience at 360. So
Hmm.
when a consumer enters in the store, what is the layout? So which is the path that he has to do in order to buy, and how to facilitate it, and then how the staff is interacting with the person, and how the products are displayed, and then even going even beyond that, what is the lighting and what is the sound and what is the smell that he perceives. And these, I find it very, very, I mean, for a marketeer, it's really exciting to be able to shape all of this, because when you have a physical product that you're selling to retailers to be resold, then the experience that you can build somehow has some constraint. While when you are a retail chain, wow, I mean, then it's limitless what you can, the type of experience that you can provide.
How much of that is within the marketing realm at XKey? And if you think of, what you described to me as really about creating that consumer-centric, customer-centric experience, how is that part of the DNA and how is that lived at XKey?
I think that the biggest learning in my experience at XKey is that um, nothing is achievable if you're not aligned with operations. So I think that in
Mm-hmm.
retail, the synergy between marketing and operations, I mean, has a really crucial importance, because as a marketeer, you can shape and build whatever, but then if you're not followed by the people that are on the ground and they don't believe in it, I mean, it will never happen. So for really shaping a customer experience and having a satisfactory or excellent customer experience, the engagement of the operational teams, and somehow then all the chain of people that works to make this happen, is really, really crucial. And because I can envision the sexiest, I don't know, marketing initiative, but then if the people that are there to make it happen don't believe in it, I mean, it will never fly.
I can definitely confirm that. What we've seen also is that across the board, the adoption of any tech in store
Oh
seems
yeah.
to live or die based on how well staff receive it.
Yes.
And because marketing is often sitting away from the stores, it's always a question. And so, maybe you have some insights to share or some tactics that work for you to bridge that gap. Um, that
I
could be
can
also relevant for others who are facing the same challenge.
I can tell you that for me, the game changer when I started spending time in the restaurants, not
Hmm.
only like sitting there and doing my meetings from the restaurant, but when one day I went and I did the entire shift from 7 a.m. in the morning until the end. And I did it in the flagship that we had renovated, and it was really the beacon of this whole turnaround project. And the fact that I was able to stay there and really experience together with the team the issues that we're having with some of the things that we had put in place in this renovation. And at the same time, I was, washing dishes for, 1 hour and a half. Somehow these got me, on one hand, direct insights of what was needed and what was not working. On the other hand, it grew the respect that I had from the team on the ground immensely, because they were them it was impressive, because also, when you are in a retail headquarters, somehow people on the ground feel that there is a lot of distance. But yeah, working alongside with them. And honestly, I don't think it's by chance if this is the way that McDonald's make all the newcomers, even the CEO, start. And Nestle, we used to say, "Steal with pride." So if it's something works for someone else, even if it's a competitor, but just copy it and do it. So yeah, and so one of my regrets is that probably I did this day at the plonge, washing dishes too late in the process, and that I should have definitely started from there.
And how do you scale this kind of a thing up, right? So now you've had that experience, they've engaged with you, and I think that creates a different kind of relationship. But let's say, tomorrow Xkey is expanding to 5 more countries. You want the people on the ground there to think in a customer-centric way, the way from a marketing perspective you'd like them to. You're running marketing initiatives. What have been some strategies that have worked to make those ideas succeed in the physical world?
I think that you need a balance between empowerment. So somehow, people on the ground, who are the people who really make it happen, who are talking directly with your customers, have a lot of real insights. So somehow they should be empowered to express their needs and being able to really feel that their point of view is relevant and they are listened. At the same time, I think that you need a bit of also top down. So you really put a rule that everybody who works at the office has to spend 1 day every quarter, every semester in a restaurant doing a shift. And probably you need, this might be my Nestle background, but to put in place some processes so that these happen, so that people from the ground can escalate and come up with proposals, and they are listened, and at the same time that people from the headquarter or the support team has time spent at really in the restaurants, in our case, but in the retail space, no matter what. I mean, if it's a shop selling clothes, I think that you need to go and work as a shopkeeper for 1 day.
I think that makes a lot of sense, right? It's that mutual empathy that's getting created in the process.
Absolutely.
And do you have any examples of some like a playbook of sort that you use to roll out a new marketing initiative then into the stores, or anything around CRM, customer centricity?
We are on a journey at the moment. So Xkey deployed its first CRM last year.
Congratulations.
Yes, it took a lot of effort, and I mean, it was a really big team job. The IT team was crucial, the operational team was crucial, and of course the digital marketing and my project leader. So we are not, I will say, the most advanced in this journey of CRM, but for sure it was a game changer for us. And what we have started doing at some point, again at the initiative of the digital manager leading it, was to use it as a two-way communication. So not only to push in discounts, promotions, and something super personalized, like we see that someone goes to the restaurants, to a specific restaurant 3 days in a week, every week, and then all of a sudden he doesn't come anymore. So you send him a tiny email saying, "Hey, we're missing you. There is a free coffee if you come this week," something like that. Then you can do, I don't know, interesting promotions linked to sustainability, like on the mug day, where we invite all our customers to come bring in their own mug, so that they have their own or a refillable mug, so that they can carry something that is not thrown away in the trash, but we are using something that is reusable. But the thing that I found more interesting was the possibility to ask for feedback. So whenever there is a launch of a new product range, um, consumers that have bought and eaten the new products will receive emails to ask for their feedback. And then after this, the amazing thing is that then the product team adjusts based on the feedback that we receive in the first 2 weeks. So if someone is saying, I don't know, that the product is not sweet enough, or it has not enough fruits inside, then of course the product team will think, okay, how can we adjust this? And somehow this, I find it interesting, because somehow it steers away from teams' perceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens is that otherwise, when you launch a new range, a new product, then the whole team from headquarters goes to the restaurants and tries it, and then comes back and says to the marketing team, "Oh, I like it," or "I didn't like it," or, and somehow I'm like, we just don't care. You're not the customer. Like, okay, thank you. You don't like it, or you like it, great. But somehow you're not the one who is going to go there and eat this product and buy it again and again. Or, I mean, you're going to do it, but you're going to do it for free. So somehow you're out of scope. So that's not who I am interested about. And also, this helps really to compensate these. There is this lovely acronym that is HIPPOs.
Okay.
Use data to avoid hippos. It's one of my mantras. That is, hippos is highest paid person opinion.
Lovely.
So if you have enough data, like, okay, we sent this survey to one other consumer who tried this new product, and in fact 80 out of them replied and they loved it, then yes, maybe the sales director didn't like it, but then I have 80 consumers here who in this restaurant loved it. So what is more important? And then that's the whole politics that start with it. But somehow having information that are grounded in numbers and data for sure are helping also navigate these challenges of the retail life.
And it sounds almost like that's you living the next evolution of marketing, where it's not just about pushing something out to the customer, but also becoming the listening ear towards the customer, and bringing those insights back into the organization, right?
Yeah.
And I think that also clubs really well with what you mentioned earlier about not just taking those insights from the customers, but also the staff in the restaurants, and going beyond just the internal hippos, as you call them very nicely. I find that very exciting. How do you go about doing this, practically speaking? So, how am I getting into that CRM as a customer in an XKey store, and how am I giving this feedback back?
You enter into a store, you take something from the counter, you go at the cashier, and in the interaction with the staff asks you if you already have our XKey card.
Mhm.
And if not, it proposes you to do it. And we have reviewed the subscription process to make it as simple as possible. At the beginning, it was quite clunky, but I think that progressively it's going to go smoother and smoother, because this is the big barrier. I mean, first, the staff has to remember and have the time to ask for the card, but then the second part, which is a virtual card, of course, and
Mhm.
then the second barrier is to make this process as smooth as possible. Then let's say that you register, you find no issues, you're into the database, and then maybe you come back 1 week after and
Mhm.
purchase a second thing, and then that's depending on what are the interests of the marketing team in that moment. That's when you receive some prompts to say, okay, maybe we're launching a new summer drink, and so we want you to try this. One thing that we had in the pipeline, we didn't manage to do it yet, was to have somehow the most loyal consumers be invited really to eat in as avant-premiere
Uh-huh.
the products, really to help us shape it and really go into a process of co-creation. So
Beautiful.
far, our process have been really tight as timeline, so we didn't have time to do it. But yeah, I really hope that we will manage to do this, because also as a consumer, I would love to do it. So I would love to feel as a special for sweet for free, and somehow being able to give my ideas. As a customer, I have been invited to something like this from different category, and I loved it. I loved it
Mhm.
to be able to talk with the people that were behind really the creation of the experience, and to tell them, hey, why don't you do this and that, and yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned this because there's also more and more sort of data coming out around this about how, especially when it comes to loyalty, right? The old paradigm was transactional. You spend, you get points. Those points you can convert into some sort of form of
Yeah.
value. Where generationally, millennials, Gen Z are asking more for two things. One is to be put at eye level with the brand. So
Mm,
we're not your customers, we're your partners.
yeah.
Um, but then two, also to think of loyalty more from an experiential perspective. And I think what you described is a brilliant example of saying we value you as a loyal customer, not just in the form of here's a €5 discount on your
Mm-mm.
next meal, but come and be a part of this process with us. And I think if anything, that's only going to increase people's loyalty towards the brand, because there's that slight sense of ownership that, that salad,
Yes.
it originally had cherry tomatoes in it, and after my feedback they've changed it to these other kinds of tomatoes.
Yeah.
And I had a little part to play in that, and every time I'm going to go back to that restaurant, I'm going to be feeling that slight feeling of, yeah, loyalty, pride, relatability, essentially.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I think it's a great initiative, and I hope that more and more brands start to do that as well, because I think the day of get a card, put it in your wallet, or get an app, download it, and then show it to me to get a few points, and then maybe you save a little bit of money. There is an audience for that, but I feel like
Hmm.
that's a very small percentage of customers who actually build loyalty. And especially if I think of a brand like Xkey, and maybe that's something we can touch a bit on. Sustainability seems to be a huge focus. A healthy sort of meal seems to be a huge focus. How do you tie all of that beyond messaging into also the whole idea of customer centricity?
Well, again, I think that the effort where we had put really the focus at the beginning was to communicate internally,
Hmm.
because our first audience is our team. And these somehow we have struggled, because in like theoretically we know that they should be like the first focus and the first target, but then when you are with working with crazy timelines and so on, somehow you lose track of that. So we have done some internal events to present innovations and so on, and also to explain from the stage like what were these efforts in sustainability. At the same time, what we have done that is really basic, but it helps, and it's more, I think, for our teams than for consumers, is to put some POS material, really explaining, okay, in our factory, we're using solar energy. And in Paris, all our organic trash is in reality reused in a factory that produces compost for clean agriculture, and to give all these informations, knowing that somehow it might have the effect of the cereal cardboard box, where a lone consumer that doesn't have a screen in front is reading it. But mostly it's just to make sure that everyone in the stores is aware of these messages. And yes, and then for us, this is a great element of the DNA of XKey. XKey doesn't have, it has a great awareness, depends on the city, depends on the country. But what everyone realizes is that it's a brand that is deeply rooted in sustainability, and that is doing it since its own beginning, which is the thing that it's a bit
Or it
special
was
about the
cool to be
brand.
sustainable.
Yes. So somehow, all of a sudden, many brands reinvented themselves as a sustainable brands, even brands that had nothing to do with sustainability. While the special thing about XKey, and the thing that I personally love, is that it's serious about it, and it's real about it, and it is since the inception of the brand, really since 20 and more years.
Definitely.
So yeah, compared to other brands, this for sure it's a competitive edge that we are trying to leverage more and more.
I can see that for sure. And I wanted to touch upon one thing you mentioned in this context was around using POS materials and, sort of communicating in store to the customer. Is that something you also do actively now for the new CRM initiative you've taken?
Yes.
Or is this something that's purely left to the staff to deal with?
No, we have done it also for CRM, and we did a test and learn on to check which was the message that was getting more subscriptions. So we have done messages that were saying like, "Don't tell our boss we are doing this. There is a secret gift for you." So trying something like this. We have done, but the thing that has worked the most to get new customers has been an out-of-home advertising campaign that we have done. It was the first ever in the history of XKey. We wanted to give a boost to the CRM program, and somehow also to have a boost in the consideration of the brand, because we were seeing our sales somehow declining, and after summer, so we wanted to have a back to school type of program. And in that case, we were giving a personalized gift to whoever was subscribing to the program. So we were starting to say, okay, do you like salty or sweet? Do you like hot or cold? Do you like, I don't know, vegan or with milk? And then based on your answer, then you were getting a gift to be taken in store if you were subscribing with your email and data to the CRM. And this somehow really worked as an engine for the subscription in the CRM program. So it was not just the peak of the week in which we had this out-of-home campaign, but it was also the long tail that was happening, which is something that as a marketeer, somehow we might forget that when you do a marketing activity, it's not just the burst, but it's also the tail that you have to look at.
And it's also how do you sustain that going ahead, right? So
Absolutely,
in that context, I
absolutely.
really like your idea of personalization here, because when we talk about personalization, I often feel like people get afraid where they think they need a massive amount of data, and how do you scale all of this, and how do you predict all these things? But it seems like sometimes even just understanding basic preferences well can put you at an advantage over your previous setup. How do you see this evolving further, going from, currently you're obviously in the build up of the program, you're acquiring
Yeah.
customers into it, testing initial messaging. What's the next stage of that journey?
But for sure is to get more and more sophisticated in the type of messages. I'm thinking just about type of newsletter that we send to announce, I don't know, that we have new products or something. So to use probably some more advanced tools that are already present in the creation of the automation of the promotions and the automation of maybe even the newsletter, and really using this segmentation that we can have to just tweak slightly the type of messages that we send out. And I think this probably is because everybody now at conferences, everybody's crazy about AI, and so they're asking, "Oh, how are you using AI?" I don't know. I think that if there is something that automation will probably accelerate, I think it's already this part, but it's something that is not really new because it's already here. I don't know if in a near future our newsletter might be written directly by a chatbot. I don't know. I'm not sure. For the things that I'm seeing at the moment, probably we need a bit more work still to have something that it's as good as done by my team.
Yeah, still gonna have a human in the loop.
Mm,
But
yeah.
speaking of AI, have you seen it being deployed already within the organization? Are there areas you're already starting to use it and see some benefits from?
What we use it for is to do meeting reports.
Okay.
So we are using a tool that basically it's like an email address that we add to our calls, like the weekly recurrent calls that we have. And it was impressive how over time the engine learned. And now we have some meeting reports that are just astonishing in terms of precision and added value. And this was something that everybody was just happy to get off their plates because meeting reports are really a pain. And if you're able to have something that it's precise and and it's in meetings where we are not sharing any sensitive information that we might be afraid that, I don't know, if
Sure.
it gets stolen or something, but just to say, okay, these are the action points, these are the blockers, these are the achievements, and I don't know. And then it becomes so precise that in the meeting report, then there is like the section that is miscellaneous. Say, oh, today was Mathilde's birthday, something like that. So this is where we are using it at the moment internally, and we love it. And then yes, we are experimenting, especially with the digital part of the team, that it's very keen on trying, but so more internally than externally focused.
I feel like there's still a bit of a curve to this, but at the same time, the speed at which these technologies are evolving, personally, I wouldn't be surprised if in, a year or something, you have an AI that's generating the entire newsletter, including assets, to a level that just needs maybe a quick human review. But that also brings me to, a bigger topic where, we're seeing, especially in the marketing world, so many things happening at the same time. And if we go down into the retail marketing world, which is where sort of a lot of what you're doing is involved, there's changes happening. AI is happening. Customer expectations are changing very rapidly, right? Like Gen Z is this a very different mindset. They're educating themselves on TikTok and on Instagram Reels, and they're more into a self-service experience than being told how to do it, and above the line initiatives and so on and so forth. So it feels like more is changing in the marketing world at the moment than at any other time in history before this. And at the same time, customers are also more and more demanding in terms of wanting to feel unique and special and at the center of the experience. So, if you had sort of three things that you thought were going to be different in the role of a CMO, especially in the retail sector, in the next 5 years, what would those things be?
I think is to be able to embrace opposites, because what I'm seeing in the retail space, but overall in all marketing trends, is that there is a very strong dualism between opposite trends. So, on one side, we're seeing in retail high level of automation. I don't know. I'm thinking about the flagship of Shiseido in Tokyo,
Hmm.
where they have put machines that tell you exactly which is the shade of colored cream you need for your face. And so you put your antenna, you do all the interaction, you have the recommendation, you can purchase it, and you can do all of it basically without interacting with the consumer. At the same time, the flagships of Starbucks, all the roasteries,
Hmm.
employees have not only their name on their name tag, but also where they're coming from,
Hmm.
with the objective that people that are coming and talking with them can potentially relate to them and say, "Oh, I'm coming from Austin as well," or "I'm from Milan," something like that. So you see the extreme of no human interaction at all, and so you have automation. Oh,
Yep.
can you say for me? Out. Oh,
Automatization.
thank you.
Automation.
Uh, Automation, yes, of ordering process in McDonald's. You have the screens and so on that are completely cutting out any relationship with humans, or at the opposite side, really the incentive of more when there is a human to have a deeper connection and to have a chat that can make your day a bit brighter, let's
Hmm.
say. And at the same time, this idea of opposites still in the retail space, what I'm seeing as trends, you have either these very experiential spaces
Hmm.
that are immersive, that are giving consumers a reason to go there, and at the same time spaces that are teeny tiny, where you can basically just do the physical purchase, that maybe you have pre-ordered in advance, and you just take your good and then you leave. So we keep on seeing those, and there is a list of similar trends. And so I think that in the role of CMOs, and maybe not just in the retail space, but CMOs in general, I think it's the openness to embrace those opposites, and to be able to adjust and course correct,
Hmm.
because maybe at some point, maybe one of the two opposites will win. So we will want just to have machine interactions, because Gen Zs are going to grow and they don't want to have to deal maybe with humans, or I don't know. But for sure, we are at an interesting moment of time where, yes, you have to be very flexible, and yes, be ready to change your mind, basically.
Solid words. And I think that's also a great moment to move on to the rapid fire section,
Ooh.
where we try to get an idea of what's on top of your mind right now,
Wow.
without giving you too much time to think about it. So I'm going to ask you a set of questions, and I want you to answer them quickly with the first word or phrase that comes to your mind.
Yes, I'm ready.
So in three, two, one. Favorite menu item at Xkey?
So difficult. You didn't tell me it was going to be so difficult. I think I have to say something in the desserts section. There was a tiramisu type of thing that even though it's not an Italian tiramisu, I have to admit I have indulged a lot.
Impressive. If the Italian is saying it was a good tiramisu,
Yes, it was.
that's a check mark. Yeah. All right. One book that changed your mind.
Rebel Talent by Francesca Gino, Harvard professor, about how being a rebel in a company is an advantage and how you can leverage it to serve your purpose.
Lovely. One fuck up that you learned the most from.
When, as a junior at Nestle in Italy, still working in the food service space, I didn't check correctly some labels before they got printed, and so they were printed wrongly, and so they could not be sold before being relabeled in the warehouse. Big mess. And the thing that, so it was a big mess. So of course I remember it. I remember the anxiety of those days, but I also remember that what saved me in that moment were colleagues. So having good, positive relationship with everyone, including people in the warehouse, was the thing that somehow made the mistake manageable, and so somehow we then were able to sell this product. But yes, that was a big learning. So that positive relationship with everyone at every level are really key.
So be a rebel, but still play well with the others. Yeah.
Yes.
What's your most used app on your phone?
I think WhatsApp.
WhatsApp. Right.
Not very original.
And one person that you would want to have dinner with, dead or alive?
The former CEO of Starbucks.
That would be a very exciting person to meet indeed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And to close, what message would you like to give to those starting out in the world of retail marketing right now? I think you already shared some really good nuggets about how it's changing. But if you had one message to the Alessandra who's just getting started today, what would that be?
Spend more time in store.
Love it. And with that, we come full circle. That's where we started this conversation. And it's been a great one. So thank you for that. I think if I were to sum it up, for me, the biggest takeaways were embracing change, being on the ground, and really taking away from those experiences and sharing that empathy with the people working in the stores. And underlying all of this was a lot of data, right? Data when making
Yes.
decisions, data when personalizing, data when also deciding what to do and what not to do. So
Yes,
I think it's
use
really been
data
a
to
pleasure
fight hippos.
to
Use
fight the
data
hippos.
use
Fight the
data to
hippos.
fight hippos.
Love it. And on that note, I think that's a perfect note to end on. So thank you so much, Alessandra. It's been a huge pleasure to speak to you.
It was a pleasure for
And
me.
to learn from your tremendous experiences. Thank you for your time. And I wish you all the best with all the upcoming initiatives you have.
Thank you.
And looking forward to trying the tiramisu in Exkey very soon. I haven't had that yet. So now it's on the top of my list.
Definitely. Once you have done it, send me a note.
Will do. Definitely.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Retail Spotlight. Tell us how you found it, whether you're in the retail industry and want us to dive deeper into certain topics or invite certain guests, or if you're a passionate shopper enjoying a behind-the-scenes look, we want to hear from you. Hit us up with your comments, likes, and feedback. And if you know someone who loved this episode, please share it with them. Lastly, if you want to stay informed when we go next live with the next episode, make sure to hit the subscribe button. See you next time.